When a woman walks away, often what's really happening inside of her isn't as simple as what you see on the surface. She may appear calm, confident, and completely sure of her decision, but the truth is, many times she's dealing with emotions she doesn't want to reveal. Ego has a powerful way of masking regret. Instead of admitting that she feels she made a mistake or that she misses you, she convinces herself to act as though she's fine, as though you don't matter anymore. But the reality is far different. Deep down, when she sees the empty space where you once were, when she realizes the security and attention she used to have is gone, those feelings start to bubble up. Regret starts whispering in her mind, but her ego refuses to let her show it. Ego thrives on appearances. It doesn't want to admit defeat. It doesn't want to acknowledge vulnerability. And it doesn't want to give you the satisfaction of knowing she's hurting. So instead of reaching out directly, she'll mask those feelings with silence, with distractions, or even with pretending she's moved on. This is why so many men misinterpret a woman's behavior. They think her silence means she's happy. They think her confidence means she doesn't care, and they assume that if she's not calling, she's forgotten about them. But in truth, the silence is often her shield. It's not proof of indifference, it's proof of inner conflict. You have to understand that when she regrets losing you, she's not going to announce it. She won't send a text saying, I miss you, I was wrong, please come back. That rarely happens because her pride is in the way. Instead, her regret might show up in subtle ways. Maybe she checks your social media but never likes a post. Maybe she asks mutual friends how you're doing but never reaches out directly. Maybe she casually shows up in places she knows you might be just to see if you notice her. These are small cracks in the armor of her ego, the little hints that reveal she's wrestling with her feelings. The key for you is to never mistake her ego-driven behavior as proof that she's completely over you. In fact, it's often the opposite. A woman who truly doesn't care has no need to hide, no need to protect her pride. But when she still has feelings, when she knows she lost someone valuable, that's when ego gets loudest. It tells her not to admit it, not to reach out, not to show her vulnerability. And the more you remain composed, the more ego struggles to hold the mask in place. This is why staying strong, calm, and focused on yourself is so powerful. Because the more you chase, the more you beg, the more you try to force her to admit what she feels, the more her ego digs its heels in. But when you don't chase, when you don't try to prove anything, when you simply live your life as a man who knows his value, her regret grows louder than her pride. She starts to wonder if she made the wrong choice. She starts to feel the weight of what she lost, and eventually that inner conflict eats away at her. So when it looks like she's not affected, don't be fooled. Ego is loud, but regret is quiet, and it always lingers in the background. And the man who wins this silent battle is the one who doesn't fold under appearances, but instead trusts the truth beneath them. Because the truth is, if she regrets losing you, her ego may fight to keep it hidden, but deep down she knows. And that's enough. When you're dealing with silence from a woman after things ended, it's easy to assume that her lack of reaching out means she doesn't care. Most guys interpret silence as indifference, but that's not always the case. Silence can actually be the loudest form of communication. When she stays quiet, when she doesn't call, when she doesn't send that text, it doesn't automatically mean she's happy without you. Often it's her ego holding her back. It's her way of trying to save face, to avoid being vulnerable, to not let you see the part of her that regrets losing you. And this is where a lot of men make mistakes. They panic during the silence. They start chasing, begging, or trying to force communication when in reality her silence is her battle with herself, not proof that you no longer matter. Think about it this way. Silence creates space. Space where reflection happens. When she's not talking to you, that doesn't mean you're erased from her thoughts. In fact, silence often amplifies what she feels inside. She remembers the little moments, the attention you gave her, the stability she had when you were in her life. But because of ego, because of pride, she doesn't want to admit those feelings to you. So she holds it in, hoping time will either erase the regret or give her a reason to justify walking away. The longer the silence stretches, the more powerful those reflections become. And ironically, the more she tries not to think about you, the more her mind circles back to what she lost. This is why silence is not something to fear. It's actually something to respect. When she's silent, she's processing. She's battling the tension between what she truly feels and what her ego tells her to project. She may look like she's strong and unaffected on the outside, but her quietness could be the result of her not knowing how to bridge the gap between her regret and her pride. And that's where your response matters most. If you react to her silence with weakness, if you try to break it by begging or forcing a conversation, you let her ego win. You show her you're still chasing, still desperate, still not in control. But if you respect the silence, if you stay grounded and patient, you give her the chance to confront her own feelings without you interfering. Silence also works as a mirror. It reflects back the reality of what life is like without you. When she doesn't hear from you, when she doesn't see you chasing, she starts to feel the void. She compares the quiet of her present with the connection of her past. That contrast is what brings regret to the surface. And while her ego may prevent her from openly saying it, her silence is proof that the battle is happening inside of her. A woman who truly doesn't care won't need silence. She'll move on freely. But a woman who regrets, a woman who feels the sting of loss, will sit in silence because she doesn't know how to handle it. The way you win in this situation is by not being rattled. You don't let her silence control your emotions. Instead, you keep living your life, you keep growing, and you keep showing through your actions that you're not waiting around. That's when her silence starts to turn into questions, and those questions become the seeds of doubt in her mind. And as her doubt grows, her ego begins to lose the battle. So remember, silence doesn't always mean indifference. Many times it's the loudest signal that she's conflicted, that she feels regret, but can't bring herself to admit it. And the man who stays calm during silence is always the one who comes out stronger. When a woman regrets losing you, but her ego won't let her admit it, the truth doesn't usually come out in words. It comes out in actions and little signals she can't completely hide. Most men overlook these signs because they're too focused on the fact that she's not directly saying, I miss you. But the real message is often hidden in the subtle ways she stays connected, even when she pretends to have moved on. Understanding these signals helps you see the difference between a woman who truly doesn't care anymore and one who still feels the loss but is fighting with her pride. One of the clearest signs of hidden regret is her curiosity about your life. She may not call you directly, but suddenly she's watching your stories on social media, liking random old posts, or even commenting in subtle ways. Sometimes she won't engage at all, but she'll check your profiles consistently just to see what you're up to. That curiosity comes from a place of missing you. She wants to know if you're moving on, if you're thriving without her, and deep down, if there's still a place for her in your world. Her ego may stop her from admitting regret, but her attention gives her away. Another sign is when she starts to ask about you through mutual friends or people close to you. She might casually bring up your name, asking how you're doing, what you've been up to, or if you've started seeing anyone new. She frames it as harmless curiosity. But the truth is, she's fishing for information. She wants reassurance that she still matters, even if she can't bring herself to talk to you directly. This is ego working overtime. It doesn't want her to look weak by reaching out, so it tries to get answers indirectly. Then there are those so-called coincidences. Suddenly she shows up in places where she knows you might be, or she reconnects with circles of people she knows are connected to you. It's rarely just chance. Often she positions herself where you'll notice her, but she'll play it off like it's not intentional. That's the tug of war between her regret and her ego. She wants to be seen, but she doesn't want to admit why. Sometimes her behavior becomes inconsistent. She might post things online designed to make you think she's happy, confident, and over you, yet at the same time she drops hints of vulnerability or nostalgia. Could be a song lyric, a late night post, or something that feels like it's directed at you without ever mentioning your name. That's the inner conflict leaking out. She wants to prove she's strong, but she also can't hide the ache she feels inside. The most important thing for you to understand is that these signs of hidden regret are not invitations for you to chase. They're not signals for you to go rushing back in her life trying to fix things. They're proof that your absence is working, that the silence is doing its job, and that she's the one wrestling with the consequences of losing you. If you break no contact too soon or start rewarding her ego-driven behavior, you take away the very thing that's making her feel regret in the first place. Your strength is in recognizing the signs without reacting to them. You don't need to call her out. You don't need to ask if she misses you, and you don't need to prove anything. You simply stay focused on your life, your growth, and your purpose. When she sees that you're thriving, when she sees that you're not chasing, the contrast between her pride and her regret becomes unbearable. And eventually, the ego that once kept her silent will crumble under the weight of what she feels. Because regret has a way of revealing itself, even when pride tries to bury it. And if you remain strong, patient, and unshaken, you'll see the truth without her ever having to say a word. When a woman regrets losing you, but her ego won't admit it, one of the most powerful things you can do is recognize the importance of your own power and presence in her life. Many men make the mistake of chasing, texting, or over-explaining themselves, thinking that they need to remind her of their worth. But the truth is, your power lies in your restraint, in your ability to hold your ground without needing validation from her. By staying calm and confident, you allow her ego to wrestle with the reality of what she lost, and that internal struggle is what generates true regret. Ego often drives people to hide their feelings. She may act indifferent, even cold, to protect herself from appearing vulnerable. But when you resist the urge to chase or react emotionally to her behavior, you create a mirror for her own emotions. She sees your stability, your confidence, and your composure, and it forces her to confront the truth she's been denying. When she notices that you're not dependent on her approval or attention, it ignites a mix of curiosity, longing, and introspection. The silent realization that she's lost someone of real value starts to take root. Your power is amplified by your focus on your own life. When you invest your energy into your goals, passions, and personal growth, it shows her that your happiness doesn't revolve around her or her actions. That independence is magnetic. Women, like everyone else, are drawn to people who have their own purpose, who carry themselves with confidence, and who can thrive without external validation. By living fully and authentically, you become a constant reminder of what she gave up, but you do it subtly without manipulation or desperation. It's also essential to understand that your power isn't about ego battles or trying to win her back through strategy. True power comes from self respect. It comes from knowing that your value is inherent and unshakable. When she feels the weight of her loss, it's not because you forced it, it's because you refuse to compromise your standards or break your composure. She senses that she no longer has control over your emotions, and that realization triggers a deep sense of regret. The harder she tries to maintain her pride, the stronger her awareness of what she lost becomes. Many men underestimate the subtlety of influence. You don't need to constantly remind her of your presence or achievements. Every step you take in your own life, every success, every moment of calm confidence communicates a message far stronger than words could. She begins to notice the contrast between her own ego driven behavior and the grounded, composed man you've become. That contrast makes her question her choices, her pride, and the decision to push you away. Your power isn't in confrontation, it's in consistency, self control, and the unwavering pursuit of your own life. Remember, this is not a game of revenge or manipulation. The goal is not to make her suffer, but to demonstrate through your actions that your worth is undeniable and your presence matters. Regret naturally grows in the space between your calm strength and her prideful silence. The ego that once shielded her now has to contend with the reality that she lost someone who cannot be replaced so easily. And that is the quiet, undeniable force that ultimately makes her feel what she won't admit. She regrets losing you. And it's your power and composure that show her just how much. One of the most important truths to understand when a woman regrets losing you but her ego won't admit it is that your response or lack of response has the power to amplify her feelings without a single word being spoken. Too many men make the mistake of trying to fix the situation, to chase, to explain themselves, or to force communication. They feel that by reaching out, by proving their worth, or by begging for acknowledgement, they can change her mind. But in reality, that approach diminishes your value and strengthens her ego. Ego thrives on chasing and desperation, but regret grows quietly when you remain composed, patient, and unshakable. Your power lies in your ability to hold your frame while she wrestles with her own emotions. When she regrets losing you, she is not going to openly admit it. Her pride is in the way. She won't text, call, or confess because doing so would make her feel vulnerable, exposed, and less than. That is where your silence becomes your strongest ally. By not chasing, by maintaining your emotional stability, you allow her to experience the weight of what she lost. You let her ego battle her heart without interference. And the truth is, this internal conflict is far more effective at generating true regret than any words you could ever say. It's important to recognize the subtle signs that her regret exists. She might check your social media even if she never interacts with posts. She might ask mutual friends about you or casually mention your name in conversation. She may accidentally show up in your circles seeking a glimpse of what she lost. These behaviors are her ego's way of testing the waters without admitting vulnerability. They are clues, but they are not invitations. Many men misread these signs and rush in, often destroying the delicate balance that makes her feel regret in the first place. True strength in this situation is demonstrated through patience and consistency. You don't respond to ego with ego. You don't prove your worth by sending long texts, by over-explaining, or by begging for attention. You remain calm, grounded, and focus on your life. Every day you live fully, pursue your goals, and maintain your composure. You are reinforcing a silent truth: your value exists independently of her recognition. That reality begins to penetrate her ego, creating an uncomfortable awareness that she lost someone irreplaceable. Growth during this period is another critical factor. When you focus on improving yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and professionally, you are not only enhancing your own life, but you are also demonstrating through actions what you once had: fitness, career progression, new skills, confidence, and social proof all communicate your worth far louder than any words. She begins to see the contrast between her ego-driven behavior and the life you are building. That contrast creates the perfect conditions for regret to flourish. The harder she tries to maintain pride, the louder the internal voice of regret becomes. Many men fail because they underestimate the power of non-action. The desire to do something in order to get her attention feels natural, but it often undermines your position. Chasing her, seeking validation only confirms to her that she still controls your emotions. Regret loses its impact when your behavior communicates neediness or desperation. On the other hand, when you refuse to be manipulated by her silence, you are signaling that your value is self-contained. That strength, calmness, and self-assurance are magnetic, and they make her question her choices on a deep level. It's essential to remember that this approach is not about manipulating her feelings or punishing her. It's about maintaining your integrity and self-respect while allowing the natural consequence of her actions, regret, to occur. Regret is not something that can be forced. It is something that emerges when her ego clashes with her true feelings and she realizes the gap between what she wanted to feel and what she lost. By staying steady, composed, and focused on your life, you give her the space to experience that realization fully. Ultimately, the silent, patient, and grounded approach is what turns the table. She may never admit her regret openly, but the internal struggle will grow and her awareness of your value will increase. Your calm confidence, your refusal to chase, and your dedication to self improvement all serve as quiet reminders of what she lost. That combination is far more powerful than any words or explanations could ever be. And that is how you let her ego confront the truth she won't say out loud. She regrets losing you, and your strength ensures that she cannot ignore it. When a woman regrets losing you but her ego won't admit it, one of the most powerful tools you have is the ability to stay grounded and consistent while allowing her to process her emotions. Many men fall into the trap of thinking that the only way to make her realize your value is to constantly reach out, chase, or remind her of what she lost. But the truth is, chasing only feeds her ego and diminishes your power. Real influence comes from your ability to maintain composure, live your life fully, and demonstrate without words that your worth is inherent and undeniable. When you embody this kind of self-respect, her ego begins to clash with her feelings, creating the perfect conditions for regret to grow. Your calmness is magnetic when she sees that you are not desperate, that you do not need her validation to feel whole. She begins to notice what she has lost. She may act indifferent. She may distract herself with prideful behavior, but deep inside, the gap between what she wanted and what she has now becomes increasingly evident. The silent tension that exists between her ego and her true feelings is the breeding ground for regret. By remaining steady, by refusing to chase, you allow her mind to do the work that words cannot accomplish. She begins to feel the loss in ways she cannot openly admit, and that internal acknowledgement is far more profound than any direct confession. One of the most important things to understand is that your actions, or in many cases your inaction, communicate far more than anything you could say. By not chasing, you are demonstrating self-control, confidence, and emotional maturity. You are showing her that your life is complete and vibrant even in her absence. This creates a polarity that is irresistible. Her ego may initially resist acknowledging your worth because it does not want to appear vulnerable, but the contrast between her prideful exterior and her internal feelings begins to tear at her. She realizes that she lost someone exceptional, someone who is not dependent on her approval, and that realization begins to resonate deeply. Growth is a key component of this process. While she wrestles with her pride and regret, you focus on your own development. Physically, emotionally, socially, and professionally, every step you take in improving your life is a silent message that cannot be ignored. Fitness, confidence, new skills, expanding your social circles, pursuing your goals, these are all forms of communication without words. They signal that your value is never tied to her recognition and that the life you lead is full and meaningful on its own. As she witnesses this growth, her ego struggles to maintain its defenses and regret quietly begins to take root. Patience is crucial. Many men want immediate results. They want to see her admit she misses you. They want quick validation, or they want to accelerate the process by contacting her. But in reality, the slower and more consistent you are, the stronger your impact becomes. Silence and composure create a sense of absence that forces her to reflect on her decisions. The longer she experiences the contrast between her ego and her feelings, the more her regret intensifies. If you chase or react impulsively, you short circuit that process. But if you remain grounded, she has no choice but to face the truth within herself. It's also vital to remember that this is not about manipulation. You are not trying to trick her into feeling regret. You are simply living your life with integrity and self-respect while allowing the natural consequences of her actions to emerge. Ego and regret are at odds with each other, and your composed presence acts as a catalyst for her internal reckoning. She may never verbalize her feelings, but that does not mean the awareness and emotional impact are not there. In fact, the quieter you remain, the louder the message becomes. Ultimately, the man who remains steady, focused, and fully engaged in his own life during the silent battle is the one who wins. Her ego may continue to resist acknowledgement, but her feelings cannot be erased. The combination of your strength, patience, and self-improvement ensures that her regret becomes undeniable even if she never says it aloud. And that is how you allow her ego to confront the truth she cannot admit. She regrets losing you, and your grounded confidence ensures that she feels it deeply.